You walk into a room, and suddenly you stop. You forgot why you came there. You try to remember. You retrace your thoughts. But the memory feels just out of reach. Moments like this happen to everyone. Forgetting names, forgetting where you placed something, forgetting a task you meant to do. Many people assume forgetting means something has gone wrong in the brain. But in reality, forgetting is a normal and necessary part of how memory works. In fact, the brain is designed not only to remember things, but also to forget them. But why would the brain evolve to forget information? To understand this, we need to look at how memory works inside the brain. Because memory is not stored like files in a computer. Instead, memories exist as patterns of connections between neurons. When you experience something new, networks of neurons become active together. These neurons strengthen their connections through a process known as synaptic plasticity. The hippocampus, a structure deep within the brain, plays a central role in organizing and stabilizing these new memories. It helps convert short-term experiences into longer-term memory patterns. But here's where it gets interesting. Not every experience becomes a permanent memory. The brain constantly evaluates which information is worth storing. Signals such as emotion, novelty, and importance influence whether a memory is strengthened or allowed to fade. This selective process allows the brain to prioritize meaningful experiences. And this leads to an unexpected effect. Many memories are intentionally not preserved. If the brain tried to store every detail of every moment, it would quickly become overwhelmed. Forgetting helps prevent cognitive overload. But the brain doesn't stop there. Even stored memories are not perfectly stable. Over time, connections between neurons may weaken if they are not used frequently. This process is sometimes referred to as synaptic pruning. Neural pathways that are rarely activated gradually become less efficient. As a result, the memory becomes harder to retrieve. But the brain does something even more fascinating. Memory retrieval itself can strengthen a memory. Each time you recall a memory, the brain reactivates the neural network associated with it. During this process, the memory becomes temporarily flexible and can be updated before being stored again. This process is known as memory reconsolidation. It allows memories to adapt as new information becomes available. But forgetting can also occur for another reason. Sometimes the memory is still stored in the brain, but the brain cannot access it easily. This is known as a retrieval failure. The memory exists, but the cues needed to activate it are missing. For example, returning to a familiar environment or hearing a related word can suddenly trigger a forgotten memory. The brain uses contextual cues to locate stored information. But from an evolutionary perspective, forgetting is actually beneficial. The brain must constantly filter enormous amounts of sensory information. By forgetting irrelevant details, it can focus on patterns and knowledge that matter most. This filtering system allows humans to think efficiently, to recognize patterns, to solve problems without being overwhelmed by unnecessary information. Once you understand this, something important becomes clear. Forgetting is not a flaw in human cognition. It is a feature of how the brain manages information. Your brain is constantly balancing memory storage with cognitive efficiency. By the way, if you're interested in understanding how the brain and body actually work, this channel explores the science behind those systems. Many everyday mental experiences become easier to understand once we examine the biology behind them, and forgetting is one of the most fascinating examples, because the brain is not designed to remember everything. It is designed to remember what matters. Vera explains the science behind how the human system works. Subscribe if you're curious about the biology of being human.